History is filled with conquerors. Some subdued small neighboring tribes. Others rose by lifting the ruins of fallen empires and building their own dominion upon them. But very few are worthy of being mentioned in the same sentence as Alexander the Great and Napoleon. Today's story is the story of such a man. This is the story of a man who emerged from collapse, who tried to impose order on a world without order, and who may have been the last great conqueror in Iranian history. This is the story of Nader Shah, and this story does not begin in a palace, but on the decaying frontiers of a dying empire. An empire in decline, the late Safavid era. The early 18th century, once stretching from the Caucasus to Afghanistan, from eastern Anatolia deep into Central Asia, the Safavid Empire was no longer what it once had been. This was a state that had once been led by a feared founder like Shah Ismail and a master administrator like Shah Abbas. But those days were long gone. The empire was still vast, but it was hollow. The center was weak. The provinces were unruly. Taxes filled the pockets of local lords. The army was losing discipline, and the court had lost touch with reality. The Safavid system looked strong on the surface, but at its core, it was fragile. A feudal structure can function only if the center is powerful. When the center weakens, everything loses its value, and that is exactly what was happening. Shahs raised in the harem. The roots of the problem ran deep. In earlier times, Safavid princes experienced war, knew the army, shed blood, and learned how to make decisions. But over time, this changed. Heirs to the throne were now raised in the harem among women and eunuchs, protected and hidden from the realities of the outside world. There was education, but there was no experience. The result was inevitable. Rulers unable to decide. Shahs who did not understand their own armies. A center frozen in the face of crisis, and the symbol of this decline was Shah Sultan Hussein. A blind sultan, a starving capital. Shah Sultan Hussein had no desire to bear the burden of rule. There was wine, there was the palace, there were concubines, but there was no governance. In 1706, he departed on a pilgrimage to Qom and Mashhad with an entourage of 60,000 people. As the state treasury was crushed under the cost, famine broke out in Isfahan. Thousands gathered in front of the Ali Kappu Palace. Stones were thrown. Insults filled the air. There are few signs more dangerous for an empire than this. When the capital no longer fears its ruler. A storm in the east, the Afghan uprisings. This weakness spread to the borders. In Kandahar, in Herat, Afghan tribes rose in rebellion. The Georgian-born governor, Gorgan Khan, ruled them with brutality. The result? Revolt. Mirwais was arrested, but instead of punishment, the Shah welcomed him into court and even allowed him to travel to Mecca. There, a fatwa was issued. Sunni Muslims may rise against Shia rule. In 1709, Mirwais returned. He killed Gorgan. Kandahar fell. Safavid armies were sent. Not one of them succeeded, and this was only the beginning. The road to Isfahan. Mirwais died. His son Mahmud Hotaki took his place. In 1719, he sacked Kerman. In 1721, he besieged it again. Then, he did something no one expected. He marched directly on Isfahan. Panic gripped the Safavids. They had a larger army, but they had no unity, no command, no plan. At the Battle of Gulnabad, the Safavid army collapsed. The Shah could have abandoned the capital. He could have organized resistance, but he did not. In 1722, Shah Sultan Hussein abdicated the throne. The Safavid Empire was finished in all but name. Chaos is a ladder. At this moment, the scene shifts. As Isfahan fell, another story was being written. In northeastern Iran, in Khorasan, in 1698, a child was born, a member of the Afshar Turkmen tribe, Nader Goli. His father was a shepherd. He died early. There was poverty, there was humiliation, but instead of breaking, Nader hardened. By the age of 10, he was an excellent rider. He learned to use weapons early. This was Khorasan, Turkmen raids, blood, survival, and this world. Forged Nader, a man from the bottom. Nader did not trust nobles. He kept his distance from clerics, but he valued loyalty. He recognized courage. At 15, he entered the army of the governor of Abavard. As a musketeer, he fought Afghan and Turkmen raiders. In 1714, the Yomit Turkmens were defeated. The news of victory was entrusted to Nader. He traveled to Isfahan. The Shah rewarded him, but the court looked down on him. That humiliation was never forgotten. The rise in Khorasan. Time passed. As the Safavid order collapsed, local powers grew stronger. Eventually, Nader became the de facto ruler of Abavard. He won wars, gathered men, laid siege to fortresses. His method was simple: mercy to those who submitted, mercilessness to those who resisted. It worked. His followers multiplied. His reputation spread. The heir to the throne, Tahmasp II. Meanwhile, the deposed Shah's son, Tahmasp II, was trying to reclaim power. He turned to the Qajars, and fate brought him face to face with Nader. In 1726, they met. Nader knelt before the Shah, but everyone knew the truth. The real power belonged to the man on his knees. Betrayal and power. The Qajar leader at Tahmasp's side betrayed him. Nader intercepted the letter. The decision was final. Execution. Mashhad fell. Rivals were eliminated. Before long, Tahmasp began to fear Nader. He tried to flee. He rebelled. But Nader spared him, because legitimacy was still necessary. Not yet, but his time would come. The road to Herat. Afghan forces in the east remained strong. Nader knew one thing: I cannot march on the capital with enemies at my back. In 1727, Sangan was taken. He was outnumbered, but he had firepower: musketeers, cannons, zanbaraks. Afghan cavalry was brave, but helpless against fire. Nader fought personally. He was wounded, but he won. The Battle of Herat, 1729. May 1729, Nader's army of 15,000 clashed with the Afghan forces of Alayar Khan. The plan was clear: force the Afghans to attack, draw them into the fire line, strike with cavalry. The fighting was brutal. At one point, the left flank nearly collapsed. Nader charged forward once more. With his own hands, he restored the balance. Then came psychological warfare. Drums, horns, deception. A sandstorm brought everything to a halt. But Herat was besieged. The cannons spoke, and the Afghans surrendered. Herat was taken. Khorasan was secured. Nader's army was now disciplined, modern, firepower heavy, a lethal force of 20 to 30,000 men. And now everyone knew. The road to Isfahan was open. This was the beginning of a man born from nothing, attempting to raise an empire from collapse. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy videos like this, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.